Recording in progress.
Welcome all to this webinar by the Funds Academy. I'd like to welcome my co-host John Casey and also thank the Business Academy who have helped in organising this webinar today. You might hear from us in respect of a number of programs that you are interested in, both from a micro-credential perspective and also from a master's and certificate perspective. So if you're interested in any particular program today, you would be most welcome to get in touch with John or I after the fact. Just to note, in terms of housekeeping, that this webinar is being recorded and we'll be making it available in due course on our website. And it is being hosted by ourselves, the Funds Academy, and as I mentioned, that consists of myself, Aisling O'Mahony, Project Manager of the Funds Academy with MTU, and also my colleague John Casey, who you can also see on screen, Project Lead of the Funds Academy with SETU. So delighted to have you all with us today. We're going to run through this webinar quite quickly, but we would very much welcome your interaction, engagement. If you've got any questions, please pop them in the Q&A, or indeed the chat function is open, or please feel free to touch base with us afterwards. So for now, we're going to share our slides with you all, and we will have time for questions at the end, or do feel free, as I mentioned, to ask questions throughout. I note that John will be starting our presentation with a short description of the Funds Academy and its activities. So handing over to you, John.
Hello, everyone, and thanks very much, Aisling. Everyone's most welcome, and thank you for taking the time to listen to what myself and Aisling have to say today about kind of Funds Academy and kind of our broader offering that we have. So I suppose initially I'll just say a few quick words by way of background as to what is the Funds Academy, what we do, and all that. So the Funds Academy is it's a joint initiative between SETU, Southeast Technological University, and MTU, Munster Technological University. I'm the face of the outfit in SETU, as Aisling has mentioned, and then Aisling is the face of the outfit in MTU. We get our funding primarily through a thing called the Human Capital Initiative Pillar 3, which is government funding, and that is what I suppose keeps us on the road. And then that's also, I suppose, what ensures that most of our programs that we offer are very, very, I suppose, low cost or price competitive, depending on what your perspective is. Initially, we were set up with help from our partnership with State Street and BNY Mellon, and they are two of, I suppose, the largest fund administrators in the country. State Street have a very large office in Kilkenny, and BNY Mellon are located in both Wexford in the southeast and then also in Cork. But I suppose in recent years we've expanded our footprint to encompass pretty much all of the kind of the major fund administrators and the broader kind of fund administration community in the southeast and southwest. So I suppose the reason why we kind of maybe emphasize this a little bit is that our programs, we'd like to think, at least anyway, are pretty current and pretty much on the money when it comes to what does the industry look for, what are the kind of topical issues from the perspective of the industry, and that gives, I suppose, a lot of our programs a certain degree of currency as well, in addition to the accreditation that you'll get from SETU or MTU. Our website is there on the screen. It's www.fundsacademy.ie. So if you're looking for any more detail, and if indeed you want to contact either myself or Aisling, you'll get our contact details on that website. Or what do we do then? Well, I suppose our main activities we have a master's in investment fund administration. That's I think we'll be talking to that a little bit later on. 2-year part-time master's program. We also offer a certificate in regulated investment funds, which is kind of a smaller offering. We're going to spend a lot of today talking about a thing called micro-credentials. Okay, so we would hope that there's going to be a big marketing push. So you're probably going to hear in the broader media a lot more about micro-credentials in the coming weeks, because there's a big push on in the education space, at least anyway, around micro-credentials, and we'll discuss what they are. And they're kind of, I suppose, our main offerings from the perspective of academic programs. Outside of that, then we run a number of seminars. We have an annual conference coming up on the 24th of April. We have podcasts, and we have a variety of other kind of activities that would take place on campus for our undergraduate and full-time students, essentially to raise the profile of the industry, because not many people might be aware, but the investment fund industry is a major employer in this country. There's nearly 20,000 people directly employed in the funds industry in this country. And there are major employers spread throughout the country. This is not just a Dublin activity. This extends right across the country. And I suppose it's an industry that is very much under the radar. And what we're trying to do is maybe promote the industry a little bit more amongst undergraduates and the wider population as well. So I suppose that's kind of a little bit of a brief introduction to what the Funds Academy is about. We're mainly about academic programs, but we do other activities as well. And with that in mind, maybe I might now hand you back to Aisling, who will give you a little bit of an introduction to micro-credentials and what we have on offer there.
Thanks, John. So I suppose I just want to start by talking about the three cornerstone Funds Academy, investment funds linked microcreds, the investment fund industry, fund accounting and sustainable finance and ESG, noting that John will also be speaking about another micro-credential called Lean, which is more in the lean and process management side of the house. But just to start off, I suppose, in terms of what is a micro-credential, we have a little piece on our website around what this is, but effectively over the last number of years, the appetite for shorter, more focused learning has come to the fore, particularly among industry where participants may not necessarily want to dedicate a year, 2 years, 3 years to courses. So what we're now doing is we are effectively providing standalone modules that can be undertaken by students under a shorter period of time. So it might be 6 weeks, it might be 12 weeks. And for anyone on our call today who's maybe already partaking in our certificate in regulated investment funds or has taken that certificate in the past, you'll be familiar with our first two microcreds, the investment fund industry and the fund accounting. However, our new sustainable finance and ESG is an entirely new module, a microcred module that is also being offered on a standalone basis for the first time, as is Lean. And we'll have a number of other microcreds coming on board in the future as well. So I'm just going to kick off by noting that this is the first time that we're offering this investment fund industry module on its own on a standalone basis. Previously, as I said, you could take it as part of our certificate in investment fund or certificate in regulated investment funds, excuse me, and you still can. However, if you just want this module on its own, this is the first time that it's being offered in September. It's effectively an overview of the Irish funds industry, talks through the governance module of funds, the outsourcing and delegation module of our sector, and navigation of central bank guidance note and corporate governance. So very, I suppose, high-level module for those who've perhaps just started in the industry or are looking to get into the industry for the first time. It'll really give you a whistle-stop tour of how the industry works, okay? It's going to be delivered online over one evening a week for 12 weeks, excluding midterm break, as we don't usually operate over midterm. The assessment model for this is continuous assessment. The fee is €500 for this standalone microcred, but it is subsidised by the HCI Pillar 3 funding that we receive for our masters. And so candidates, if they want to take this on their own, will pay €250. And look, if you work for a funds industry partner, there's a potential that you could speak to your employer to see if perhaps that might be covered on your behalf. If you're interested in this module, you can register your interest at the moment for all of our microcreds on fundsacademy.ie, and then John or I will be in touch in respect of the enrollment procedure for that. I'm now going to pass you on to John, who will be able to take you through a little bit on the next microcred, which is his micro-credential on fund accounting.
Okay, thanks, Aisling. And I'll just speak a little bit around the fund accounting micro-credential. I don't really want to put too many people off, because normally once most people hear the word accounting and you put the word fund in front of it, makes it sound even worse, to be honest. But again, this is part of a module that sits within our certificate in regulated investment funds, but it is now available as a kind of a standalone module that you can just come in and take as a micro-cred. So I suppose, what is it that we do, and do you need to know a lot about accounting? Well, initially, I suppose the short answer to that is, first of all, you don't need to have done accounting before in order to be able to take this particular module. I don't necessarily get into debits, credits, all that kind of stuff. I try to take the module kind of aside, without addressing that particular issue. Now, if you have done accounting before and if you understand what a debit and a credit is, you might find it a little bit easier, but that's about it. Effectively, I suppose what this module looks at is, it looks at kind of how does the processing of information within an investment fund work. And every investment fund buys or sells equities, might do a bit of buying and selling of bonds. Some investors come in, some investors leave. There's expenses going on, and there's other kind of activities. And what we're doing in this module is effectively coming up with a system to record and to process all those particular transactions that an investment fund might engage in. The ultimate objective of all these particular activities then is to come to a price for the fund, and that's called the net asset value per share. And that's, I suppose, that's the bread and butter of what the investment fund industry is about. Every day, if you're in a daily price fund, you've got to issue your price for your fund, and you got to make sure that your system allows you to do that. And that's sensibly, that's what this module will try to achieve. And we take it basically from first principles. We start at a very kind of initial level, and we build it up over a period of 12 weeks. Okay, so this program will run online 1 evening a week for 12 weeks. And that excludes the midterm break. So we would be looking at kind of September to December time. So it'll run in the autumn period. The assessment for this will be continuous assessment with, there will be an exam at the end as well too. And we can chat to that offline to anybody who has any kind of issues or concerns around that side of things. But, you know, I think there's an opportunity in this particular module to effectively garner up some of the marks that you'll be that will be available throughout the term, so that at least everything is not hinging on a final exam. If your memory of doing exams is your leaving cert or anything, I think you might find that this will be very different. The fees, again, I mentioned in my earlier speak, and you can see down here at the very bottom of the screen, there's a bit on there's a logo there called the Human Capital Initiative. Well, the fee then is being covered partially by the Human Capital Initiative. It is the fee for modules in both institutions is €500, but effectively 250 euros will be the ultimate amount that will be charged to anybody who takes this particular module, because the Human Capital Initiative will subsidize half of it. And if you are in employment, there's a reasonably good chance, if you approach your employer, that they'll cover the other half. And if the enrollment process, the easy thing to do is if you go onto our fundsacademy.ie website, if you then click onto micro-credentials, you'll see a register your interest button, hit on that, and it'll come through to either myself or Ashing, and we'll make a contact with you, and we'll kind of mentor you through that enrollment and registration process. I suppose with that then, what I might do is I might pass over to Ashling, who will talk to you a little bit about our sustainable finance module.
Thanks, John. So this is our brand new module in sustainable finance and ESG. It is a 5-credit module at level 7. And effectively, this course will provide learners with a foundation in sustainability and ESG. We'll be looking at the key concepts around this evolution. We'll be looking a little bit at the regulations around ESG and also the standards for reporting around ESG and sustainability. And we'll also be looking at it from a carbon accounting and a risk management perspective. So it's going to have a little bit of everything. Sustainability and sustainable finance has absolutely come to the fore in financial services in recent years more than ever. Therefore, we think that this module will be very popular with industry, given the appetite for sustainability skills across the sector. In terms of delivery, as this is a brand new module being delivered for the first time, we're still firming up the delivery model, but we will be in touch with anybody who's registered their interest well in advance of the commencement of this course in September. And we'll be able to give you a full breakdown of how this will be delivered before you finalise your enrolment. In terms of assessment, however, this will also be continuous assessment. There'll be a mix of some multiple choice questions as we go along, as well as project in relation to sustainability. And then just to note that because this is in such a high skills area and there is such demand for these sustainability skills, there is an increased percentage subsidy for this area of 80% as opposed to 50%. So although the initial fee for this was €500, 80% of this is being subsidized by the Human Capital Initiative. So candidates would only need to pay €100, which is obviously excellent from a financial perspective. Just to note as well that you can register your interests for this on fundsacademy.ie also. If anyone has particular questions, as I said, we would very much welcome them in the Q&A or the chat, and we'll address them at the end of this presentation. Or indeed, you can touch base with John or I, and we'd be happy to set up a short online call with you to chat through any of your queries. And just, I suppose, to come to our last microcred, I might pass you back to John, who will bring you through a microcred that's not necessarily just for those interested in finance, but will, of course, be of value to anybody working in financial services and indeed other sectors, which is our lean micro-credential. So I'll pass this on to John.
Okay, thanks, Ashing. So the last kind of micro credential that we have on offer, I guess, is a program called Why Lean. Okay, an introduction effectively to the whole lean philosophy. This is a little bit different to the other micro credentials for a variety of reasons. First of all, it's not exclusively a funds module, although there are funds applications. Second, I suppose difference is that this is just a 1 credit micro credential. So that means it is going to be very, very short, because the standard module in higher education is 5 credits. This is just 1 credit, so you'd expect it to be considerably less in terms of content and delivery than what you'd normally look at. And it's at level 6. Now, I can see there's already a question around all this kind of different level stuff. So I'm going to maybe park that up, and we'll chat to it at the end, and what are the implications of that from perspective of getting onto these different programs. So let's have a look at what this kind of whole idea of why lean and what the description of this particular module. So lean is a particular philosophy to, I suppose, around continuous improvement and process improvement in organizations. And it has applications across practically every organization. It originally, I suppose, was established in manufacturing companies and was very much around kind of how to improve the manufacturing flow in a company and make that more efficient. But in recent years, it has expanded and has now, I suppose, developed and evolved into the broader services area. And it's all around wherever there's a process being enacted in an organization, how do you make that process more efficient and streamline it? Because as organizations get bigger, they get plunged up in bureaucracy and process, and effectively they can often lose sight of what the ultimate end goal is. And essentially, we would see in the funds area that there would be quite a demand for process improvement, and a lot of what happens in fund administration is around improving your processes to make your operation more efficient. If you can make your operation more efficient, obviously that's better for your clients, and it's also better for the bottom line in your own company. What this particular module does is is a very initial introduction to what lean is about, what does it do, how do you work it, and then I suppose there are other programs in both institutions around how to maybe get yourself on then to the next level. If you're interested in maybe in the lean area, because it kind of, I suppose, originally established itself in Japan, it kind of borrows a lot from a lot of the kind of the martial arts in terms of white belt, green belt, blue belt, black belt, that kind of stuff. So people can achieve a kind of an accreditation that has got global significance if you kind of delve into this area in much more detail. This is just a kind of a basic introduction, and there's huge opportunities to develop your learning in this space over time. The delivery for this particular module, again, it's online, and it's what we call synchronous and asynchronous. So online, some of the content will be delivered in a live session where we all come together in a forum like this, although it won't be a webinar, it'll be more like a normal Zoom meeting. Or then there's also some asynchronous content, in other words, recorded content put up online. We'd expect, this particular module, because it's going to be quite short, will be delivered in a short time frame, about 6 weeks. And it won't involve as much kind of time as, say, a 5 credit might involve. The assessment is continuous assessment. It'll be multiple choice type questions with a written piece at the end. And again, the assessment is not going to be onerous, because again, the reason for that is, again, coming back to this 1 credit piece. And then I suppose lastly, as with the last course, with regard to sustainable finance, this particular area is in high demand because employers have communicated through various forums to the government ultimately that they want people with these particular skills. These are kind of fairly broad, based generic skills that are useful in any particular context. And as a result, then the level of subsidy on this particular program is even higher than what you would normally expect. The full fee for this particular program is €280. Again, less than the others because it's just one credit. So ultimately, the amount you pay, it seems like it seems like a bizarre number. It comes down to €56. That's because it's 80% of the full fee. So €56 is the amount that the student or the learner pays, and again, you may have that covered for you by your employer if you approach your employer, and they may cover that off for you. If you're interested, again, we keep coming back. Go on to fundsacademy.ie, go into the micro-credentials page on it, and there'll be a register your interest button there. Okay, so actually, if you go on to the next slide, so I suppose when I kind of spoke more broadly around the around the Funds Academy, I did mention I suppose our two bigger programs, and just a very kind of brief piece around our two bigger programs. We have one program that's called the Master Business and Investment Fund Administration. That's a level 9 award, and I do appreciate we do have an open question on these different levels and what they mean. We'll come back to it. And what that program is for, it's effectively, it's a part, this is kind of, I guess, a bigger program. It would be a more traditional part-time master's program. It's for people who are currently working in the industry. So if you're in the funds industry or you have any experience of investment fund administration, then this might be a program that might interest you. It's a part-time blended program. It is offered over 2 evenings a week, over 2 years, plus an add-on for a research project. So this is, I guess, each semester, you do 4 semesters, you'll take 3 modules every semester, and then over the course of the 4 years, you do 12 modules. If you go into our website, you'll see more details on this. We are recruiting for this program at the moment. We will have another round of recruitment with students starting in September 2024. And again, because of the funding that we have available to us, the Human Capital Initiative will pay the vast majority of your fees for this particular award. In other words, the final amount that a participant will pay will be €500, and that's in total over the full 2.5 years. If you were to pay full fees for this particular award, the sticker price is north of €5,000. So this is quite a large reduction, and would be very, very competitive relative to many other Masters Awards at this particular level 9. Okay, so that's our Masters of Business Investment Fund Administration. I suppose primarily a program designed for those currently working in the funds industry. It includes, modules that are germane to the activities in the funds industry, and it also has kind of broader management modules around leadership and managing people and so on, as these are the kind of skills that you need to progress your career in the investment fund admin sector. Then our other program that we have is a slightly shorter program. That is a certificate in investment funds. It's a level 8 in regulated investment funds, I should say, get the title right. That's a level 8 award. That is a smaller program. It's only a 1-year program. It takes place over 1 evening a week over a full year. So the master's program takes a little bit longer. The certificate in regulated investment funds is only 1 evening a week for 1 year. You do not need any experience in the funds industry, but also that doesn't exclude people who have experience in the funds industry. It's open to everybody, but we assume that people who come onto this program don't understand what an investment fund is or how the industry works. So anybody can take this particular module without experience. And then the objective of this is basically to give people some of the I suppose the background and the information around how does an investment fund work, how does the industry itself works, and then the employment opportunities in the industry are, I suppose, in common with many other sectors in the economy. There are many open employment opportunities in the industry, and the idea behind this program is to give people a leg up to get into the industry. It is quite specialist and it's quite a niche industry, and it can be difficult for some people to I suppose to get into the industry. And the idea behind this program is to give people the in. so that you can come into the industry, and when you walk in the door day one, at least you're not asking the question, "Oh, thanks for the job, but what's an investment fund?" It would be difficult to maybe to access the industry if you didn't know what an actual fund was about. We have modules in fund accounting, fund regulation, and fund governance, and a broader module on how the industry works. If again, to be confirmed, but I won't say we're 99% certain, but we're pretty certain that there's going to be funding available for this. 90% of fees will be available for this particular program, and eligible participants will only end up probably paying about 150 euros will be the fee. That's going to be confirmed, and we expect an announcement from government around springboard funding late spring, early summer. So we're looking kind of May time. We're hoping for an announcement on that in due course. But you will hear a lot of noise again in the broader media around the springboard system more generally, and this is our offering in that particular space. So if you start to hear noise around springboard, then drop onto our website, fundsacademy.ie, and you'll see the updated information around fees. But we're not anticipating that there'll be any change to what you see on the screen there. Okay, so Aisling, maybe I'll head back to you then.
Sure. So in a second, I'm going to give you a little bit of a tour of our website so you can see exactly where the information is around these microcreds and the other courses in case you're interested in those. And that'll only take 2 minutes, but it might facilitate your navigation through. And we'll also be able to give you a little bit of guidance around the entry criteria and the admissions process. But for now, I'm going to stop sharing my slides and see if anybody has any questions that they would like us to address, because we're very conscious that there are a couple of questions after coming in the course of this presentation. So we might just stop sharing for a second, and we can maybe address some of those questions around levels, etc. as well.
Okay, well, do you want me maybe to have a look at the question? Or there was I think the question is kind of more broadly around kind of what do I need to be able to get in, and it really relates back to the levels. You may have seen that when we put up all these various slides, there was certain program level 8, certain program level 7, our master's program level 9. That's the levels refer to a thing called the National Qualifications Framework. And it's a national, or it's actually a European framework in higher education, or in education more generally. And as an example, for example, the Leaving Cert sits at level 5. Okay. Now, in general, in order to be able to move from, say, level 5 to level 6 to level 8 and so on, you need to have achieved at the previous level. So one of the programs was level 6. So effectively, to come on to level 6, you need to have level 5, which is Leaving Cert. The master's program is level 9. That's master's. So in order to get a level 9, you need to get onto a level 9 program. You need to have a level 8 award, which is an honors degree. And that's kind of the I suppose the basic kind of framework that exists, and that's not just unique to SETU or MTU or to programs and funds. That's across the board for any program in Ireland and across the EU as well. Now, that might appear to be a little bit of a barrier because, oh gosh, not everybody has done a Leaving Cert. Not everyone has got an honors degree, and what I would say is, don't let that stop you from applying to one of our programs, because there's also a kind of, in tandem with this kind of levels, there's also a subsidiary system that runs alongside called recognition of prior learning. So if you have done any kind and it's given these great acronyms in higher education, RPL, but it does really what that means. This recognition of prior learning, if you have done any form of learning, whether it's accredited or unaccredited, we will take that into account. If you've got experience of, say, maybe you want to have a look at our program on fund accounting, and you might not even have a leaving certificate. You might have gone straight out of working after junior cert. You might have been working in an administrative role in a company for a period of time. Well, as you are working in that role, you'd be, you're gaining experience, you're gaining knowledge, and we will take that into account in assessing whether this course is suitable. Okay, and really our only concern really is that we don't want to offer you a place in a program that you would struggle on. We want everybody to come onto our programs and okay, they're going to be challenging. They might be, you might find it a little bit tough going, but we want everybody to come onto the program with the expectation that they're going to achieve on our programs. In other words, that the step up won't be too much for anybody. And that's really what we're trying to gauge when we're looking at kind of your level of experience and everything else. So there are various levels. If you've got a level 8 and you want to come on to a level 9, well then that's it. We don't go any further. But if you say you've got a level 4 award and you want to come on to a level 8 program, well then what we can do is we'll ask you for a little bit more documentation. We'll make sure that you've got a little bit of experience. You've got maybe you've got other learnings that you've done elsewhere. We'll take all that into account. And our only concerns, we want to make sure that the program is suited and that it can be quite a kind of it can be quite a fraught experience if you find that the program is just it's too much, and it can dent people's confidence quite dramatically if you come onto a program that is effectively too difficult. So that's really what we're trying to do. And in the main, we find that kind of program, we've had numerous people who've come onto our various programs who've come in through the subsidiary route of RPL, and they have thrived. So we don't see it as a barrier. Okay, I think I've shot. I don't know if there's any more I can say about that.
That's great. Thanks, John. I suppose the next thing then that I want to do was just to give a little navigation of our website so you can see where you can find the register your interest buttons for these. And then we'll wrap up the webinar. But as I said, John and I would be very grateful to any of you for if you would like to reach out to us and give us some time to explain any of the modules in a little bit more detail, you'd be more than welcome to get in touch. So for now, I'm going to share my screen and you'll be able to hopefully see the Funds Academy website in front of you. So here you have our homepage on fundsacademy.ie, as you can see up here in the screen. What we have effectively is we have a number of tabs at the top of the screen. So if you click on Masters, for example, that will bring you into our Masters, and you'll have 2 apply buttons there for SETU and MTU. So you should note that the Masters is currently taking enrollments in both institutions. The certificate then, we'll have to wait a little bit for that. As John mentioned, we are holding off to see if we are successful in achieving Springboard funding for this year. We do anticipate that this will run regardless of funding, however, but what you can do is get in touch with John or I if you'd like to put your name down as register your interest for this certificate, or indeed the micro-credentials, which we've just talked you through. There are a number of micro-credentials under this micro-cred heading, and you'll see there's another micro-cred there that we're still awaiting validation, but all of the 4 that we've discussed, fund accounting, Wileen, etc., is there. And if you clicked into, for example, fund accounting to read more, you will see there's detail around entry criteria, delivery and timetable, costs and applications, etc. And then you have a number of options within. There is a register your interest button. I'm just looking to see where I can find the register your interest button on the microcreds section, but you'll be able to effectively register your interest there. Here we go. So this button is under the cost and application segment. So what you'll be able to do is there's a QR code there, or there's a register your interest form if you'd like to give your details, and that will give you a tick box for each of the microcreds that you're interested in. You'll be able to put down your name, and then John or I will be in touch to take your application further and to let you know what we require in terms of application. So we may ask, for example, for previous transcripts. Some funding models require proof of residence, etc., but we'll be able to take you through all of the requirements at that stage. So also just to note that there is a contact us button up here for both SETU and MTU, and both John and my contact details are there if you'd like to get in touch with either of us after this. So for now, unless anybody has any questions, and we might just give it 30 seconds in case anybody does, please do. But what we'd like to do on behalf of the Funds Academy, on behalf of MTU and SETU, is thank those of you who have engaged with this webinar. either live or as we expect the recording will be very useful for those who couldn't make it, given it was during the workday. And if you would like to follow up with us in respect of any of the courses, please do feel free to get in touch. Just to thank as well the support of the MTU Business Academy, who assisted in setting up this webinar, and in particular Isabel Rossiter, who assisted in the setup, and to thank my co-host John Casey. And I'll just pass over to John to say a quick thank you and goodbye also.
Okay, yep. Thanks, Aisling. And again, thank you for taking the time to listen to us. I suppose for those who are listening to us on the recording, this is a bit like those shows on TV where if you try to cast your vote now, it might be a bit tricky and you could be charged. So what I would say, if you do have any questions and you're listening to this on the recording, please do contact us. Aisling just popped up our email addresses there. They're available on the fundsacademy.ie website. So and we're happy to take any questions offline if you want to pose them to us. So again, thank you for your time, and I think we'll sign off on that, Aisling.
Thanks, John, and thanks all for attending.